Darth Sidious is widely regarded as one of the most dangerous Sith Lords in history, and rightfully so, and was almost single-handedly responsible for the greatest era of unrivaled darkness in galactic history. As a master practitioner of the dark side, we've seen the one Dark Lord confront many formidable opponents, and almost every time without fail, he comes out on top. It would not be an exaggeration at all to say that Darth Sidious was the culmination of the Banite era of the Sith, the culmination of the rule of two, and the perfect Sith being. The one glaring exception to this precedent, however, of Sidious's undefeated streak was his duel against veteran Jedi Master Mace Windu. We all know the duel well. The duel, which resulted in Palpatine being pinned and all but helpless against the Jedi Master. Given his power and prestige, however, did Palpatine willingly lose to Windu in order to get Anakin to finally cross the line to the dark side? Did Palpatine throw the fight? Or was Palpatine legitimately at the mercy of Windu, perhaps one of the most ruthless Jedi Masters of the Order, and certainly of his time? Well, stick with us today, weary acolytes of the galaxy, and let's assess whether or not Sidious threw the fight with Windu and took a massive gamble on Anakin, or if Windu legitimately beat Palpatine in a one-on-one duel, making him the only individual in Star Wars canon to ever defeat Palpatine in a duel. First, let's assess Palpatine's motivation to throw the fight and willingly leave himself exposed to Windu in this fateful moment. At this time, Anakin was towing the line between the light and the dark, sinking deeper into Sidious's grasp as the fear of losing his wife corroded his judgment and his loyalties. At this moment, all Palpatine had left to do was make the final push towards seducing the young Skywalker into joining the dark side, and finally turning on the Republic once and for all. As far as Anakin knew at the time, Palpatine held the only answer to saving Padme's life, and his desperation could have been the final push towards getting Anakin to finally embrace the dark side, after aiding in the murder of one of the most prolific Jedi Masters of the Order. While Palpatine was a master tactician and was capable of seeing several moves ahead of his opponent, is it possible that this wasn't a master plan, nor was a manipulation tactic, but instead, how likely is it that he was simply beaten? There is no doubt that Palpatine is a gifted duelist and a fiercely talented combatant, and this is on full display throughout the duration of the Clone Wars. In nearly all of Palpatine's appearances, he killed the 3 Jedi Masters who accompanied Windu to arrest the Chancellor within mere seconds, one of whom was Kit Fisto himself, who was able to duel General Grievous to a standstill earlier in the Clone Wars. He fought Maul and Savage Opress simultaneously, and beat both of them with minimal effort, and even dueled Grandmaster Yoda to the point of driving the aged Jedi Master away from the fight and into exile. By all accounts, Palpatine is amongst the most skilled lightsaber combatants of the Clone Wars, or ever for that matter, but even he can only push his skills so far. While he is talented, he is not a primary lightsaber duelist, and does not believe in drawing the blade immediately, rather relying more on one's force skills. Instead, Palpatine opts to manipulate pieces from the shadows, using political aims and the Force itself to achieve his desires, even going so far as to claim that he does not even like lightsabers and would much prefer to work from behind the scene.
Take your Jedi weapon. Give in to your anger.
In Return of the Jedi, he regards the lightsaber as a Jedi's weapon, and does not prefer to use them whenever possible, as he is not seen using a blade again after his duel with Master Yoda. Although Palpatine does actually draw his lightsaber in the Star Wars novel Lords of the Sith, this is an extremely rare occurrence. Mace Windu, on the other hand, was the definitive master of his chosen form, which not only happened to be one of the most dangerous forms of lightsaber combat, but one of the most powerful as well. Vapad specifically functioning by towing the line between the light and the dark, letting one feel the rush of a combat encounter and reveling in the thrill of the conflict, which seldom allowed a Jedi to embrace the form without ultimately falling to the dark side and succumbing to their darker half. Due to this, along with his Shatterpoint ability and immense speed, Mace Windu is widely regarded as one of the single greatest lightsaber combatants of his generation, on par with Dooku, second only to the likes of Yoda, according to some. George Lucas Palpatine is even on record as stating that the two individuals that were capable of competing with the Emperor physically were Yoda and Windu. Nobody else. And while the Emperor was a highly talented duelist, one of the greatest assets that he had to assist him was his proficiency in the Force and his sheer speed, which ironically is also one of Palpatine's greatest traits, especially in the heat of a lightsaber duel. This was because Palpatine used the Force itself to augment his own physical abilities, essentially being much faster than his opponent. This in large part would make up for his lack of skill with the blade, simply using his Force augmentation to take him the length and allow him to overcome nearly any opponent. Oftentimes, the most overwhelming aspect of combating Palpatine was the inability to keep up with him, and this is on full display in the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, which adds more detail to their fateful duel from Anakin's perspective. The shadow Windu fought, the blur of speed, could that be Palpatine? Their blades flared and flashed, crashing together with bursts of fire, weaving nets of killing energy in exchanges so fast that Anakin could not truly see them, but he could feel them in the Force. The Force itself roiled and burst and crashed around them, boiling with power and lightspeed ricochets of lethal intent, and it was darkening. We also know that the following was the first battle of Geonosis. Palpatine came to fear Dooku for his stunning proficiency in lightsaber combat, and soon came to believe that Dooku stood a strikingly likely chance of overthrowing him at an astonishing 80 years of age, because of his fact that he contended with Yoda. While we know that Dooku is widely regarded as one of the single greatest duelists that the Jedi Order had ever produced, we also know that he and Windu were peers who constantly battled for superiority, and the line between who was definitively better was often blurred between the two. This is all before mentioning that Dooku had already reached 80 years old and was well into the twilight of his life before Palpatine regarded him as a threat. But Windu at this time, and during the Clone Wars, was far younger and physically proficient. He, by all accounts, was more powerful than Dooku. While it could be said that Palpatine had the motivation and the reasonable opportunity to willingly lose against Windu, it is far more likely that Mace Windu was simply a superior duelist who was on the feud that was able to keep up with Palpatine's incredible speed. Not to mention that Palpatine actually delays the fight, allowing Mace Windu to fall deeper into Vapad. As something that should be noted is Mace Windu claimed that only a single time did he fully achieve the true potential of Vapad, that being against Darth Sidious, meaning Palpatine likely could have killed him earlier, but simply chose to play with his food, falling into one of his greatest critiques of Maul, and not killing his opponent when he had the time. Mace Windu, though, in his lifetime of training, meant that he was one of the very few individuals who was capable of matching Palpatine on a physical level. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this idea? Who do you think was truly the superior duelist on that day? And do you believe it's possible that Palpatine purposely threw the fight against Windu in order to entice Anakin into joining the dark side? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.